So our next session is on changing the game, customers, technology, or business. And I'm delighted to have Christopher Rodriguez, Chairman of Visit Britain, who's going to be moderating this next session. Christopher has been one of our greatest supporters with this Hospitality and Tourism Summit, and is always willing to share his views on the industry. He was saying to me earlier that it's been 30 years since he participated and expressed his views in a tourism event like this, BHA Brisbane in 1985. He also mentioned he is still in his job after 8 ministers, 9 secretaries of state he has served. Too many accolades to mention, including being made a commander of the British Empire in the 2007 New Year's Honours List. Please welcome Christopher Rodriguez.
Thanks very much, Jonathan. Good afternoon, everyone. Well done for avoiding the unpleasant, hot, unattractive weather that Britain is known for. I've asked my panelists to join me here, and we are joined today by Manon Antoniazzi, who is Director of Tourism, Sport and Heritage for the Welsh Government, Alison Dolan, the Deputy Managing Director of Sky Business, Helena Egan, Director of Industry Relations at TripAdvisor, Kelly Gluck, Head of International Merchant Marketing at Discover, and Isabel Pinson, Senior Director of Market Management for Northern Europe at Expedia, and Terry Scriven, Head of Hospitality in Google UK. And anyone who thought that this was not an equal employment opportunity industry, look at this. In 1985, when I was at the ABTA conference as a young whippersnapper, I made a speech about the impact of technology on our industry and this thing called the internet. And some very wise elder statesmen of the industry, e.g. people who are younger than I am today, turned to me and said, the internet will never work. So I'm not going to give you any predictions. However, the question that we have, customers, technology, or business, is for those of you who have a fondness for music, you will know the great Strauss Capriccio opera, where the protagonists spend their time arguing about which comes first, the words or the music. Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber actually demonstrated how you build a bridge between that strange starting point here. And the answer is, when the words and the music come together, you have unforgettable experiences. And that's actually what we're about, better and better experiences for visitors and tourists in an increasingly competitive world. So the question for us is, are the customers driving this? Is technology driving this? Is business model changing? Or is it some combination of the lot? So we'll start off with that exam question, if we may, and start by, I think, inviting, what should we have? Terry. From your perspective, in the first part, customers, technology, business, or a combination, how does it look from where you are?
We really feel that technology has helped to enable the consumers to almost have ever a hyper-connectivity. They are hyper-connected. You are all hyper-connected. We now are accessing our phones. We have in the UK almost 75% penetration of smartphones. So we're accessing it multiple points of time during the day. And in terms of booking travel, we see that 60% of us are utilizing it, what we call snacking moments. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. When we have time, when we're commuting or at the doctor's office, to actually, log on and identify where we want to go or book a hotel room. So actually, technology is enabling this consumer change, and we're seeing the ability now to do much more one-to-one communication and the impact that's having on marketing. So more programmatic, one-to-one, targeting the audience, targeting the user, directly, and the impact that's having.
So let's go right to the other end of the spectrum, if you will. Representing Wales, a wonderful country, marvelous destinations, not as well known as I think everyone would like, leading with you. How does the business model, how do these changes impact what you're doing, and where do you see this going?
Thank you, Christopher. I think it's difficult to unravel those three factors. Ultimately, it's about the customer demand, of course, but that is shaped by emerging technologies, which in turn drives new business models. So we don't tend to not get hung up about forces which are sort of ultimately synergistic. Marketing absolutely is a science, but it's also an art. It's about people at the end of the day. Wales is a small, clever country, but we realise that in order to make the most of our resources and reach our markets, we have to embrace digital content-led technology. And as a national DMO, we are at the front end of the customer journey in creating awareness of Wales to begin with. So I think that's where we're coming from.
So, Alison, creating awareness, Sky can help there. How do you see your end of the industry fitting into this challenge that we're talking about?
Well, I completely agree with you, Manon, that it's difficult to unravel the three, but I think particularly for as far as this sector is concerned, the technologies which have, really taken off and which have created the most value for hoteliers when they offer them to their guests have been entirely driven by customer demand. And I think that that's exactly the way that it should be, actually, because, providing technology for technology's sake is pretty unnecessary and expensive, and equally you're potentially missing out on an opportunity to provide your guests with something that they really want if you respond to customer demand. I think probably you will all recognize that Wi-Fi is a great example of what I'm talking about. There are any number of technologies that have been kind of around hotels for a long time, but the provision of really good and ideally free to guest Wi-Fi has been driven by customer demand, and those of you who started by charging for it, I think are now, if not already changing, then at least asking yourselves the question as to how long you can continue to charge for Wi-Fi. So, I think our observation is that the people who do this really well are aware of the technologies that are out there, but where they choose to prioritize their spend is in response to customer demand. And so I think the trick is to recognize shifting demands and changing demands and respond to them.
Kelly, you're an intermediary. My background is in the card industry. Card industry makes things possible that people never thought were possible. You can turn up in Azerbaijan and pay for things with a card from a building society in Britain, or in your case with a Discover card. You have responsibility for the merchant side. How do you see these features changing on your side of the business?
Sure. Well, I think first of all, what we found in the payments industry, there's been a lot of stops and starts in different technology developments. And so there is a lot that as a company we can develop, but if we can't get merchants to adopt and consumers to adopt, the technology actually doesn't move forward. And if you think about the payments industry, as much as we can integrate within the hotels or within the restaurants and what they're trying to do, the experience they're trying to deliver, and it meets up with that consumer demand, we actually have a winning piece of technology advancement, but often that's not the case. And so if you think about the number of wallets or whether it's NFC or contactless or what type of advancement, it doesn't always work with just technology advancement. So I'm going to go with Alison, and that I think it's kind of a combination of the two.
And an Expedia perspective.
Definitely having the consumer in the end is the one who decide. And the consumers today are becoming a lot more impatient. There's no doubt about it. They want everything now. Also, the consumer, they see things in different industry, and then they expect it to see it also in the travel industry. And so it's really key that in the end, technology is there to enable what the consumer wants. You also sometimes need to be able to understand a little bit deeper than what the consumer really wants. So it's not just asking the consumer, it's a mix of different way of how do you find what the consumer wants and how can technology solve a problem. So whether it's around doing A/B test on your site, consumer might say they want this, but when you actually test it, they want something else. or whether it's doing deep focus group, lab, and observing how consumers are behaving. And I think the core here is to understand what's the problem we're trying to solve, what's the problem or the need a traveler or a guest might have, and then think, how do I bring technology to help them? And the rate of change is going faster and faster, and consumers are fine with that. Travelers are very happy about it. So it's the industry that needs to follow up.
We'll come back to what that means in a minute. Maybe Helena now, just your
Always
your
good to be
opening
last.
lens.
I think one of the things that we need to think about is technology is enabling all the players, including hotels, big platforms, to really target the consumer and gather data and make the data and information relevant to them. But when are we going to hit the wall when the traveler wants, the consumer wants to have relevant products, relevant information served to them, but when does it become intrusive, and when are we going to hit the wall where the consumer is starting to move away? So it's that balance I find really interesting, because the expectations are there. They want everything now, they want to be relevant. If it doesn't work, they move elsewhere, and it's going to take a very long time to gain them back. But are we close to hitting that point that we're going to be knowing too much about them and actually being intrusive? And that interests me a lot.
Okay, let's move into a place that some of these comments have suggested. What does best practice look like in the world today? And we're often tempted, this is an industry that is primarily SME. There are some big players and very important big players, but often we just talk about what the big players do. I'm really interested in what best practice looks like, and in particular, what are you seeing in smaller firms where they are demonstrating that you can do the best practice regardless of your size, and you can stand out from the crowd. So who'd like to pick that one up first? Terry?
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
So we partner with hotels and tourist boards, as well as some of the OTAs. And I've really seen some of the smaller independents move incredibly quickly. So the likes of Citizen M, for example, I've seen not only in their marketing campaigns, but even their commercial offerings. They're doing interesting things like giving away nights where you'd actually charge more on New Year's Eve to really gain that customer buy-in, or increase the number of citizens they have joining their hotel group. And their ability now to drive traffic direct to their websites to book through Citizen M, in addition to some of the OTAs, have actually been able to drive more direct traffic and optimize their profitability as a result of that. And we're seeing other really good examples of that, and even some of the bigger chains like Hilton, we're starting to see they've really led the way around their digital transformation within their organization, adopting mobile, kind of best practice mobile sites, and as a result are able to address that consumer demand.
Helena.
I think personalization is a huge thing, and I actually pulled some stats yesterday after we had a conversation with Christopher. We really looked at kind of, if you look at someone like TripAdvisor, which is also a platform for free, listing yourself free and utilizing free opportunities. And I'm having to look at these figures because they're brand new. So 62% of all the accommodations listed for UK on TripAdvisor are Airbnb, Airbnb is bed and breakfast rather than hotels. And then we looked at how many of them have actually taken the opportunity to own their business, and only 69% of all hotels and B&Bs have registered as an owner, which is a completely free service. And then you look at all the research that I was at the Aspire event, we heard a lot of research saying that all the business owners find that online reputation is a massive thing. We hear the consumers want to see more images, they want to get more data, they want to see that there's engagement, and only 14%. In last month, 14% of the reviews written for UK were responded by an owner, although almost 70% have claimed their businesses. So, and I'm not talking about just our platform. If you think that content will be seen everywhere, 500 million people see that outside. So sometimes I think we need to go back to basics. I mean, it's hugely important, the mobile, that the sites are enabled for mobile, but just the basic thing is there's so many free opportunities in all the different platforms, and this is where the travelers are. So it's almost like taking that step back and going, the traveler goes there, they want information. I can do it, yes, it takes time, but it's really important to put it in there. So that's why these figures were interesting to pull, because I was actually quite surprised in a negative way.
Tim Zagat has the same story to tell from the Zagat guide once he went on online responses. But the restaurateurs fell into two completely different categories. Those who said, it's noise, I don't need it. And those who said, wait a minute, something went wrong on Saturday night from that feedback. I need to know what went wrong and I need to be able to fix it. And you could start, his observation is you can start to see performance opening up between those who are harnessing data and using it to deliver better insights into their business and those who are just leaving it to one side and saying, not for me. Other input on what best practice looks like.
I just wanted to add, actually, even though it's not my industry, what we find out from our card holders is how they choose where they're going to stay or shop or dine is so much driven by the social media, and then not just what's on there, but how the merchants are responding to them and how they're dealing with it. So that actually does improve the profile. It's interesting because we were shocked. It didn't matter if it was someone in China or the US, they responded almost identical. So it was such a big driver. And as far as from a payment standpoint, it wasn't just the experience that they had, but literally, could they then use the card that they wanted? And so it was interesting how they're using social media in order to make those decisions. So,
any other best practices?
Yes, I was going to add on. So I think for me, in general, leveraging data is really a best practice. And I think regardless of your size, it's possible. Obviously at Expedia, we have a lot of data. And we can use it to both help the consumer. So for example, when they have to book a flight, there's so many options, so many combinations. Being able to replay some of the information of somebody who searched for a flight from New York to LA. Actually, they left from JFK and they arrived at LAX, and they left more on Monday. It was cheaper than on Tuesday. So we provide back information to consumer, to travelers. But also, we do the same with hotel partners. We're able to play back information on this specific hotel. You are not getting your fair share of Japanese that are coming in this neighborhood for the same star rating. Let's see with you how come you're not getting this fair share, but you're doing very well on Russian, for example. So being able to play this back to hoteliers. And so I think this is where, regardless of your size, you have data available. Like for the small hoteliers, Expedia, we provide them that data. We provide them a lot of real-time information, even if it's TripAdvisor, if it's other players that are providing them data, and it's being able to, the willingness to want to look at it, whether it's the reviews that you were talking about a few minutes ago, to look at it and say, what's the insight? What does it tell me? What should I change to better address the opportunity that's out there?
What about what we used to think of as television, but we no longer think of television? The screen in the room. What are people doing with those screens and providing their customers with, in the best cases?
Well, I think it's a real mix, and again, it is one of those areas where I think, in our view, best practice sees people responding to what their guests want and value, and are very good at, knowing who their target customers are and then tailoring their offering to that. So, I was with somebody yesterday, for example, who says that they get 2,000 complaints generally a month about the quality of their Wi-Fi. And I kind of sit there thinking, really? But that's such an easy thing to fix. And, and the same when it comes to television. We have done a huge amount of research at Sky, which we will share with and do share with all of our customers, with people who come to us saying, we'd like to offer our guests some level of premium television, but we're not quite sure, what they would like and what they would value. And some things really stand out, So for example, 74% of the hoteliers that we speak to say that customer satisfaction is their single biggest KPI. And yet when we speak to guests, only 17% of them say that they get television in the hotels that they stay in that they're actually happy with. So there's a huge chasm there. And I think television is one of those areas where guests are very prepared to be quite vocal online, both positively and negatively. And so, there's an awful lot of content that Sky can offer that is very easily delivered to a hotel, that if you tailor a good response to some of the comments that your guests are providing with your own wish to improve their customer satisfaction, then it is quite an easy fix. So generally, where we see people really getting it right are, they provide a good quality screen, decent size, high definition. They provide decent premium content to go along with that. And I think that's largely following the trend that has happened in home. Over 90% of this country now has multi-channel television. Sky alone has over 11 million domestic homes. So I think customers' expectations are created by what they are accustomed to and what they have themselves and what they're prepared to pay for themselves. And hoteliers, clearly don't need to keep up with every inch of that. But I think those who do it right are pretty good at figuring out which elements that their guests value, and therefore will drive value for their own hotel by increasing the experience.
Before this, I asked you whether, if you looked at this from the perspective of a DMO or a nation like Wales, how difficult is it to conceive of channels that actually merchandise the attractions of the area? You end up in Snowdonia or you end up in the Lake District, and you may know something, but you might like to know more, and people are very visual nowadays. Is the concept of having content provided as one of those channels incredibly difficult to think of, or very easy if we could get the content right? And I'm going to come to you.
It's extremely easy, and you don't actually, speaking against my own product, you don't actually need a television to deliver it. One of the products that we provide is digital signage. So, small screens either in the rooms or in reception or in the bar with information which, we would be happy to co-create with any tourist board that talks about the attractions of a local area and gives guests information about, both the hotel, events coming up within the hotel, but also events in the locality, and, particularly for foreign tourists, what they might be interested in is Maggie.
We'd love to talk. Going back to your question about best practice, Christopher, I think there are two quick things to be said from our perspective. Absolutely, the market analysis and that understanding to be able to focus marketing properly, absolutely essential. And there are many fantastic tools to help the industry do that job now. But the other thing that's important, of course, is creativity. And in Wales, we have partnered very strongly. We have a very vigorous creative industry sector, which we've joined forces with. We've signed up some of the A-listers of that industry to work with us on developing our brand, on brand innovation. And we feel that if we can work with the industry to create really rich multimedia content that can be deployed across all kinds of channels, and we really want to be innovative in terms of the partnerships that we build up on that. The other thing, just to be said in passing, is that it isn't just in conversion, of course, that digital technology is important, but once people get to the destination as well, there's a huge amount. We've been running a project, the Digital Business Framework Tourism Project in Wales, which has resulted in some fantastic products, some really rich interactive experiences. I'd single out the augmented reality Alice in Wonderland app in Llandudno. Must have your ex there. Come and meet the White Rabbit. There was a walking trail around the town, which has proved extremely attractive, in terms of tourists once they get there.
Perfect. Ufi, just I think to capture a moment, I've never had so many people offering so many things to so many of your members. So I think there's a bridge here between the offers and back to your members, which I'm sure you'll pick up. They're taking notes. You're all on. Do you, Manon, threats from all of this technology? We've talked in the past about the gouging, a terrible word, or at least the margins that the big tech giants take. Do you see, is that a problem, or is there a happy medium where people find the things that the tech giants can bring and are happy, well, maybe never happy to pay, but willing to pay because the returns are there for them?
I think a number of things to say. It is, I'd be the first to admit, not every bit of product in Wales is completely easy to search and find and book. And so obviously there's a great opportunity with working with intermediaries who can get us to much larger audiences. Having said that, as we're all aware, OTAs do have mixed reviews in the industry occasionally, and especially in a marketplace like ours, which is dominated by small players, by SMEs. One leading hotelier in the room described the relationship to me as bittersweet, so just to sort of name that elephant in the corner. Conversely, however, of course, there's never been a better time for hoteliers to innovate, for the industry to innovate and to work outside these systems. And meanwhile, if you were to ask me, would Visit Wales like to partner with the OTAs, then absolutely we would. I mean, we're in the business of helping our industry stakeholders to get their project in front of the right markets. And we will use the best channels to do that. We've already partnered with Expedia and Hotels.com in the German market. And, you know, we'd like to think that Wales doesn't have a huge universe of products, so it's a manageable scale of product, but we have lots of skills, and so I think that it's a very fertile ground for creating innovative partnerships, and we'd be really interested in talking.
As you all know, this is time constrained, as all conference panels are, so I'm going to give you a chance now to go around and just talk about what's the next best thing that's coming from you for the industry. Terry, you can say what the next best thing is at the end from Wales.
Okay. We at Google are continuing to work to find the answers to the questions that you type into search or that you use on now more and more voice search on your mobile phones. So there'll be continued improvements that happen to get you the best answers to your questions. We're starting to see much more rapid pace of change around the hotel ads product. So that just within the last 3 months has doubled in overall volume and importance and what people are, people are actually utilizing that to find hotels. And it also, helps improve direct traffic to the hotel site itself. So that you'll see a trend, and that will continue to improve, especially over the course of the next year. It's taken us a while to get there, but flight search, you might utilize that. You're looking for flights to London. It's incredibly fast, so you're going to start to see quite a bit more similarity in the change that's happening. And more tools for the hoteliers to ensure, similar to some of the great tools that the TripAdvisor has done to make it that much easier for the hotelier to get connected, book a hotel through TripAdvisor. You're going to start to see those tools to allow the ease of which you can list your hotel and be found on Google.
Helena.
One of the great things, having been with TripAdvisor almost 7 years, is watching how the consumer and the traveler really is so important, similarly to Google and everyone, because we could have a great platform, but if no one comes to it, that's it. So one of the key things that we hear from the consumer is, I hate the words frictionless and seamless, but that's what it is. The consumers or the travelers feel like there's too many obstacles when they start booking, so our meta may not be the easiest. So we created something called instant booking, and which actually answers 2 questions. The consumer wants to do a very fast payment, and then the hotelier wants to own the customer. So our new Trip Connect instant booking, it's a very long name, enables that. And it's open for independent hotels through booking partners. So it's a fantastic service, really listening that the consumers are getting tired of being thrown to another site, and then that site enables the booking. Then they actually stay in a hotel in the end who doesn't necessarily have all their data. So trying to solve all those 3-4 issues has taken us a little while, but I think the willingness is there definitely from the hoteliers and the want to own that consumer. But for the consumers or the travelers to have that easy thing, they're traveling, they want to book the restaurant, they want to book the attraction, but equally they want to book their flight, they want to book their hotel. They want things easy. So connecting the traveler to the business is I think, going to be the key for most of the big players.
Awesome. Sky, next steps.
Yeah, so our primary focus is on really creating choice in how a hotel chooses what channels to offer to its guests. So a couple of years ago, we launched what we call Sky in Room, which effectively is a skybox within each hotel room, which effectively allows a hotelier to recreate a home-from-home experience for their guests, and to really bundle channels just in the way a guest does at home, a unified remote control, so it's something that they're accustomed to, and really try to create a home-away-from-home experience. Coming next from us, we're working with some of the budget sector hotels now, who, quite rightly probably don't feel that firstly, increasing their fixed cost base while at the same time being unable to increase their room rate is obviously something that doesn't make sense for them. So we're developing a product that will allow them to increase RevPAR by passing that charge on to the guest by way of something other than a room rate increase. So effectively, we can switch content on and off in a particular room by a particular guest. So you come in, you check in, you've chosen to pay for premium content, you pay for it, you see the channels, you leave, we switch it off, next guest comes in, the same thing, or it stays switched off if they haven't chosen to pay for it. But for the budget sector, it really makes sense because they just feel so impeded in their ability to increase price. So that's it from us. Other than that, we will continue to deliver great TV and great quality Wi-Fi.
So Expedia, we obviously have a lot of changes coming both from the consumer and the hotel side. I will pick one, as we are constrained on time. I'll focus more on the hotel side. We have a platform, and all the tools that we provide to a hotel is Expedia Partner Central, and there's definitely a strong focus in terms of technology to further develop those tools. 5 years ago, when I joined Expedia, our Expedia site had gone through a huge replatforming to move it to a new technology. Now what we're doing, now that this is done, we're doing the same thing for the supplier tool. What's the benefit of that? The benefit is really to allow the hoteliers to be able to leverage all the power you can get out of working with an OTA. By default, a hotelier's website or content will be translated in 35 languages, will be on our site, but the real power and the visibility and being available, as we were talking earlier, is really when the hotel partner is able to work with what do they really want? Where do they need Expedia? What type of promotion? Do they want to be more visible for Brazilian, for Americans? Do they want to be more available on tablet, on mobile? Understanding also the difference in each country. Because in some countries, you have to be present on mobile because emerging markets have leapfrog. They're not on PC anymore. They've never been on PC. They went to mobile directly. So it's not just understanding who is the traveler as a generic traveler, is understanding who is the traveler from the country that I want to attract. And what do I need to do? What amenities do I need? Do I need Wi-Fi? Do I need parking, hairdryer in the room? For which nationality is it important? And we are working on making sure we provide all this information in a relevant and easy to use display for the hoteliers to leverage this. So watch out the space of Expedia Partner Central.
Hotels can't live without your industry.
Yeah. So maybe I can just do it a little more broad instead of specific things that we're doing. As a business, we completely agree with Ufi about partnering, and really our next big thing is all the different things that we do with different payment partners, with different travel platforms like Expedia or reviews on TripAdvisor. We do a lot of growing our business, and how we've actually grown is by working with our competitors. So I would say our next big thing is no sooner than the next thing we do with a competitor. And I would just say, as everyone looks to solve their business problems, think about that your competitor could be your ally, and maybe solving a problem with your competitor actually will further the industry. And that's really our business's greatest contribution to the payment industry, and hopefully then to you.
Brilliant. Manon, what's the next best thing to come out of Wales?
Next best thing to come out of Wales. Well, we are looking at a real step change in terms of brand development. And 2016 is going to be the year of adventure in Wales. Bear Grylls said Wales is where the adventure starts in 2016. We have castles, we have surfing lagoons, we have zip wires, we have dragons, we have a coast path. So that's what we're really looking at, and the industry is coming with us and really responding well, and is going to offer a great bookable product for visitors in 2016 and beyond.
Thank you. We're through our time. I want to just ask the audience to join me in thanking all of you. I think what you've demonstrated is you may be in the restaurant business, you may be in the hotel business, you may be in the events business, but we are all in the digital world now. And we can't stand still. If you aren't spending a fair amount of time concentrating on where the future is going, you're missing a lot of opportunities to make your business better. And thank you for sharing all of that with us. Thank you.